This month, a bone was found in the desert, 7 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. It turned out to be prehistoric, ancient, not connected to the case, not connected to anything, and in the 10 minutes between the yellow tape going up and the ruling coming down, the whole world held its breath. That moment says something about where this investigation is now. 110 days in, every lead ends somewhere else. Still no arrest. And the man running this case just told a national magazine that he has never sat down face-to-face with Savannah Guthrie. She doesn't need to talk to me, the sheriff said. Her family is still waiting. That has not changed. That is the one thing in this investigation that has not moved. The investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance is still open. The DNA is still at Quantico. The labs are still running. But this week, it became clearer than ever. The case is not getting closer. The silence is just getting louder. The headline is "The Bone in the Desert." The headline is the sheriff who has never met the family. What matters is understanding what all of it means and what it tells us about where this investigation actually stands right now. That is what this episode covers. If this kind of evidence-first analysis is what you want on every active case, subscribe. Now let us get into it. 110 days since Nancy Guthrie vanished from her home in the Catalina Foothills of Tucson, Arizona. No arrest, no publicly identified suspect, still no arrest. The reward is $1.2 million. Nobody has claimed it. Sheriff Chris Nanos told People magazine this month that he is no longer communicating directly with the Guthrie family. The FBI is handling those conversations. When asked about the frustration, he said, this is a direct quote, "The public is frustrated, even the Guthrie family. The family is frustrated. That word 'even' is worth sitting with, as though they should be the last ones to feel it, as though 110 days without knowing where your grandmother is should not produce frustration." In the same interview, he said something investigators almost never say about their own active cases. When the labs tell us there's nothing else they can do, then maybe we've got a cold case. Out loud, in a national magazine. And then separately, he was asked whether he had sat down face-to-face with Savannah Guthrie, the granddaughter, the woman who took leave from her national television job to look for her mother. "No," Nanos told People. "I've not even sat down with her face-to-face. She's got a lot on her plate. She doesn't need to talk to me. She doesn't need to talk to me." 110 days in. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She lives in the Catalina Foothills, residential Tucson, where the desert climbs toward the Santa Catalina Mountains. She managed a cardiac condition with a pacemaker, a small device in her chest, monitoring her heart. Her granddaughter is Savannah Guthrie, anchor of NBC's Today. That connection explains the national attention. But the attention did not create the case. The case exists because an 84-year-old woman disappeared from inside her own home in the middle of the night. Months later, nobody can say where she is. She had a church live stream the morning of February 1st. She was supposed to appear. She had probably appeared dozens of times before. When she did not show, someone noticed. That is how the family found out she was gone, through the routine that suddenly was not there. The last confirmed sighting, the evening of January 31st. Nancy had spent time at her daughter Annie's home. Her son-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, drove her home and dropped her off at around 9:50 that night. She went inside. On the night of January 31st, 2026, she was home. By 2:28 in the morning, she was gone. The Catalina Foothills, streets climbing toward the mountains, driveways behind iron gates. The temperature that night had dropped below 45 degrees. First responders documented a blood trail starting at the front porch and extending toward the street. It stopped at the curb, where a vehicle's door would have been positioned. 2 devices logged what happened next. The cardiac pacemaker in Nancy's chest, monitoring her heart rhythm and movement, logged its last recorded data sync at 2008 in the morning of February 1st. Her Apple Watch also disconnected in the early morning hours. A second data point on the same window. That window. 2:12 to 2:28. 16 minutes. Still 16 minutes. 110 days of investigation built around 16 minutes in the dark. Before we get into what investigators believe that footage actually shows, subscribe to Crime Deepcut. We stay on every active case until there are answers. Sergeant Aaron Cross of the Pima County Sheriff's Office described the first week on the record with Brian Entin. One word: chaotic. Communication broke down, within the department and between the department and the FBI. FBI Director Kash Patel stated publicly on Fox News that his agency was excluded from the investigation for the first 4 days. He said he had a plane ready to transport DNA directly to Quantico. According to Patel, the sheriff chose a private lab in Florida instead. The sheriff disputed this. "The FBI was with us day one," he told People magazine. Director Patel has one version. The sheriff has another. Both are on record. The record will speak for itself at some point. Steve Moore, retired FBI, documented experience in abduction cases, assessed the early response. Nobody took charge. If there's confusion at a crime scene, it means nobody is in charge who knows what they're doing. The FBI evidence response team arrived day 5. Coming late to a crime scene is like coming late to a buffet. Some things are going to be gone. For Nancy's family, those 5 days were not a procedural dispute. They were 5 days of not knowing. They were waiting for answers from an investigation that, by its own sergeant's account, was in chaos. Think about what they were going through. They were waiting for answers. They got chaos. For 110 days, one piece of footage has driven everything. The doorbell camera, the masked figure, the camera going dark. One question has dominated: can you identify this person? One analyst watched the same footage and concluded that question, the one everyone has been asking, may be the wrong question. Morgan Wright spent 40 years in law enforcement. His read on the footage does not start with the face. It starts with what is missing from the frame. The figure was not hiding his face. He was protecting the vehicle. A vehicle has a make, a model, a year, a partial plate, traceable through DMV records to a home address within 2004 hours. A masked face cannot be traced that way. Wright's conclusion: a vehicle image from that camera would have been a catastrophic problem for whoever took Nancy. So the camera came down first. The camera was gone before the vehicle arrived. He planned it in that order. Nancy's family has watched that footage. For 110 days they have lived with that image, the masked figure at their grandmother's door in the early hours of the morning. They have watched it and asked the same question everyone else has asked, and the investigation has produced no name, not one. A rootless hair strand was recovered from the scene. Sent to the FBI laboratory at Quantico and to Estra Forensics. Rootless. It shed naturally, without the follicle. Less genetic material, harder to process. But Steve Moore offered a different framing of that single hair. Imagine the odds of a person coming into a crime scene, losing only one hair, and you find it. That's not likely. If you find one hair, there are probably 10 more that you've missed. The implication, the publicly disclosed evidence, may be a fraction of what investigators actually hold. C.C. Moore, an investigative genetic genealogy specialist, is working the effort, building outward from partial DNA matches, gradually narrowing the pool toward a single identity. From mid-April, the processing window runs 60 to 90 days. That window is now, and it is closing. When the sheriff of Pima County uses the phrase cold case in a national magazine for the first time, the question changes, not whether the investigation is open, whether it can close in time. But DNA does not carry a date and timestamp. The crime scene was chaotic in its early days. The hair could have been left by someone with legitimate access to the property. The DNA could name the person who took Nancy. It could also be a dead end. Just a dead end. The investigation does not know yet which one it is. On the morning of May 7th, something happened that stopped everyone following this case. A YouTube live streamer searching the desert terrain near Tucson spotted what appeared to be bone fragments, 7 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. He called police. Yellow tape went up. Officers arrived. Specialists were called. Human, confirmed, prehistoric, not connected to the Nancy Guthrie investigation, not a criminal matter. 10 minutes. Yellow tape in the desert. The whole world held its breath, and then ruled out, filed, another day where the answer was somewhere else. That is what the search for Nancy Guthrie looks like now. A live streamer finds a bone in the desert, and for 10 minutes the family of an 84-year-old woman has to wait again, has to not know again. That is the wait that does not show up in the investigation timeline. The waiting that resets every time something moves, and then doesn't. Everyone is still looking. Not one lead has found her yet. The genealogy work at Quantico has a 60 to 90-day window from mid-April. That window is now. If a name comes back from that lab, Crime Deepcut will break down everything. Subscribe so you are here when that happens. What follows is professional assessment, the documented conclusions of experienced investigators examining the available evidence. This is not the official position of any law enforcement agency. The investigation has not declared Nancy dead. Her family has not declared Nancy dead. With that stated, her age, her cardiac condition, medication left on the counter, the time of night, the blood at the curb, 2 ransom notes sent to media outlets, not to the family, a Bitcoin wallet referenced in those notes, never accessed. The ransom notes added complexity the investigation has not fully resolved. Former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer raised publicly the possibility of a coordinated cryptocurrency extortion network. Authorities have not verified that theory. One man in California was arrested for posing as Nancy's abductor, unrelated entirely, someone trying to exploit the chaos. The gloves found near the home, ruled out. DNA traced to a restaurant worker, another dead end, confirmed, filed. For Nancy's family, all of this analysis leads back to the same question they have had since February 1st. Where is she? The professional conclusion of one experienced investigator on the record, this is a no-body homicide. Not everyone agrees. Elizabeth Smart, who survived her own abduction, has stated publicly that Nancy could still be alive. The investigation has not closed that possibility. This is one investigator's professional read, not a verdict. $1.2 million, unclaimed, 110 days. 2 people cannot keep a secret. 1 person can. The silence of that reward is the loudest argument for a single offender in this entire case. Savannah Guthrie posted on Mother's Day, Day 100. Mother, daughter, sister, Noni, we miss you with every breath. We will never stop looking for you. We will never be at peace until we find you. 110 days now. And the pacemaker inside Nancy Guthrie's chest is still running, still logging, still keeping count of every moment she has been gone. Every second since 2:28 on the morning of February 1st is stored inside a device the size of a small matchbox, implanted in the chest of a woman who deserves to come home. The first 4 days, or day 1, depending on whose account you accept, set a pattern that held for months. What any of this means for Nancy is the only question that matters. The FBI's evidence response team arrived day 5. Steve Moore addressed what a leadership change would mean. There is going to be a learning curve that's going to stunt the growth of the investigation for a little while. But if leadership was part of the problem, that would be a very short time of stumbling and a vast improvement going forward. The cost to Pima County has reached approximately $1 million. A bipartisan board of supervisors has called for the sheriff's resignation. He has not resigned, he is still sheriff. And the family, the people this investigation exists to serve, are now communicating exclusively through the FBI, not the sheriff, not the department that remains technically in charge. Every day that conflict continued was a day the investigation was not focused entirely on finding the one person who knows where Nancy is. Every single day. The sheriff is no longer talking to the Guthrie family. The board wants him removed. The county has spent $1 million. The case is still open. That is the record. The record speaks for itself. Where Nancy Guthrie is, unknown. Whether she is alive, unconfirmed either way. What the DNA at Quantico has produced, not publicly released. What happened in the 4 days the FBI was excluded, unknown. What is on the sealed 911 call, never released. Why the ransom notes went to media and not to the family, unexplained. Why after 110 days and $1.2 million, nobody has called. No documented answer. None. Savannah wrote it on day 100. We will never stop looking for you. We will never be at peace until we find you. If this investigation changes, if DNA results come back, if an arrest happens, we will cover it here. Subscribe so you are here when it does. For 110 days, Nancy Guthrie's family has gone to sleep without knowing where she is. Somewhere in Tucson, one person knows. And every day that passes without an answer makes the silence louder. The labs at Quantico are still processing the DNA. The reward is still $1.2 million. The FBI is still talking to the family. Somewhere, one person knows exactly what happened in that 16-minute window on the morning of February 1st. And the pacemaker inside Nancy Guthrie's chest is still running, still logging, still keeping count of every moment she has been gone. Every second since 2:28 on the morning of February 1st is stored inside a device the size of a small matchbox, implanted in the chest of a woman who deserves to come home. The investigation is still open. Whether it is still working, that answer is coming. If you have any information about the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, call 1-800-CALL-FBI. The tip is anonymous. The reward is real. If anything breaks in this case, Crime Deepcut will cover it. The case file is open. Subscribe.